What's up guys, it's Akrameth here and welcome to Redesigning Whomp's Fortress. If you haven't already seen the first video of Bomb on Battlefield, please go and watch that one. This is going to be a chilled vid of just me redesigning the painting. It will be like a time lapse, but I'll talk you through my process. If you don't know already, I use Procreate to design most of the logos that you'll see in my shorts. I've done Chrono triggers, Zelda logos, the other gaming ones, a bunch. But I just want to try something different and see if I can tackle all of the paintings, including like Boo's Haunt as well, and the paintings that might not have, the levels that might not have a painting. So, let's get started.
Okay, so to make my life easier, I tend to put the original painting in the back and then start just adding just my rough shading on top. I do it in a purple or pink or just another color specifically, just so I can see where everything is going roughly. Here, as you can see, I'm not sure if it's like a full-on cone or if it's like curved, so I'm kind of just making it. I probably go for like a straight triangle just because it makes my life easier if things are building blocks. Because the painting is very faded in the original, I don't have to be very particular, if that makes sense. And it's my drawing, so I can do what I want. Okay, so again, just going in with the line work around the base area of the actual painting itself. It starts to get like, this is Whomp's Fortress. This is, ew, you guys didn't hear that. This is Whomp's Fortress itself, but everything's very rough. It's like a simplified version looking from afar. It's kind of like what loads of, what loads of Mario levels do. From afar, they'll have like a simplified version of the level, like in Galaxy or any of the Hub Worlds Marios, and they always do the same thing. It's just a very simplified version of the actual level. I decided to add a few extra bits, like add an actual Whomp. There is a Whomp on the base part, like not normally towards the middle of Whomp's Fortress, but because I'm making it my own, I'm doing my own thing. I'm adding a Whomp. And I'm adding a... Okay, I'm confusing myself. The blue square that slams down, is that a Whomp? And then the cement brick looking thing, that's a Whomp. I don't know. Just put it in the comments, please. Okay, now that I've gotten the rough drawing done, I now add the inked line work. Here you can see that I've gone through most of it now. I'm just adding a rough texture for like brick layouts to see where I want to do things. I'm not being very specific and I'm not being very particular on where I put these lines because it's meant to be very rough. It's going to look very sketchy as I go along here, but please just trust the process. I then start just mapping out just general brickwork of where I want things to be. I make my life easier by just copy and pasting things. So I'll do a layer above the original and I'll just copy and paste the same one, just reverse it. So if I have bricks on this side, instead of me drawing all of them individually, I just flip it and I move it over. Okay, I'd also decided to add the cage that the star sits in. I can't remember if it's like the 6th or 5th star, but I said, you know what, let's make it a bit more interesting and add some other elements like I did for the Bomb on Battlefield one. When it comes to these, as I said, I can be very rough where I want to be, but I tend to do lines and then just erase where it's not necessary, all in the same layer. There might be other ways that I could do it within Procreate, but please, I am no master. I'm still learning, even though I've been using it for like 5+ years. But hey, you learn something new every day, man. Okay, so just designing that silly flagpole that sits on the kind of left, either left or right side of the Whomp's Fortress. I just remember that was the first time I think I discovered that Mario can kind of do like a handstand thing you can do like a handstand on the pole. I don't know if that makes sense. I'll put a clip of it, but you get what I mean. Here I decide to start just generating the background. So in the painting, it's just like a big cloud in the background, and it kind of arcs in from the middle, but I'm just gaining a rough idea of how I want to do it for the actual painting. So I decided to do one side in blue, and I found a really cool texture for a cloud, and then flip it on the other side, not making it symmetrical, but slightly different within the lines. So I used the liquefy tool and just start to stretch out some of it. I think I grabbed the clone tool as well and just start generating some clouds just in different areas so it looks more 3D and not so fake and liquefied, if that makes sense. Now here you can see me just finding like a texture that I want to use when it comes to just blurring out everything. I think I found a paint texture and just used a smudged version. So I started smudging out the clouds so it looks more paint-like.
Okay, so right now, the aim is to just get as much detail in as possible, but once for it, the main objective is to try and get as much detail as I can into Whomp's Fortress. I didn't realize there was so much details within this damn fortress. So many like different walls and bricks, as you can see on the screen. But the way they do the painting is it's just like a rough version of it. So I'm gonna do as best as I can to capture all those details. But let's get back to it.
Okay, so the line work is done. Now I'm just using like flat colors just to understand where I want the base ones, just going on Whomp's Fortress. So I haven't added any details yet. It's literally just me flying around trying to find examples of what I want to do. So I start from the bottom, just doing the grass part. I know that there's like yellow flowers next to Piranha, but I have him there just as a rough guideline so I know where he is. I then just like switch in and out between the background so I know what's what. It's hard to use the exact same colors because I know I'm gonna have slightly different lighting, but here you can see me going in with the brown, I believe it's like a cobblestone texture for the kind of what would you call it, slope kind of thing. Here I'm also adding like it's like a beige, there's a lot of beige and browns when it comes to the brickwork within the logo as well. So from here, to make my life easier too, I tend to just find a texture that works the closest to what I'm looking for. So for example, obviously the bottom of Whomp's Fortress, it looks like mountainside kind of brown. Right now the actual texture is gray, but I will just use call it layer magic to make it work within the logo. So I know it looks hella sketchy right now, but trust the process. I start from the bottom, and here you can see me just filtering through the layers, just seeing what works. And I want to make sure it's the actual colors on the original painting is very dark on some, but I'm going to make mine intentionally just a bit lighter because I'm going to be adding shading to it. So I want to make sure it works perfectly and I can add a bit of depth to the painting. Okay, so right now I'm just doing the inner part, which is like a cobblestone kind of texture. It looks more refined and looks more purposeful with the way I'm doing it. I use like a distortion tool to make sure that the texture is going in the same direction roughly as the actual pathway or pane, if you want to call it, or pane. I don't know. I'm not saying that word right. Please correct me in the comments. And also subscribe if you haven't. Otherwise, I'll crush you like a womp. Anyways, here I am just laying out some brickwork. I've already done the inside part. I know there's water there. Do not worry. Don't type in the comments, he's forgetting the water. I know. It's just I have to make it look very uniform. It's all stone underneath there anyways, and then I add the water on top later. It's weird. Normally I do the detail lines first and start going over the inking a certain way, but I decided to go for the textures first because when I do art, it's an experiment. Okay, here you could see me just messing around with how I wanted some of the enemies to look. I really wasn't sure how I should do them. So I'm just kind of messing around with how I want them to look. And then I get bored and start doing detail lines because no one likes that character anyways. Okay, so when I do my line work, I make it, I do a lot of cross-hatching and shading in certain areas. It's not very specific per se. It's more just in areas here and there to just give some sort of kind of light depth to the painting. I don't want to make it heavy because that's where the shading comes in. I intentionally make the shading black. I start with like really comic-y hard lighting on a separate layer, and then I just adjust it. I adjust the opacity as I go, but I start in like a thick black texture on purpose. So if you just imagine that one sun in that desert stage in Mario just beaming from the top right of the painting, I'm just making super hard shaded lines within areas that just require it. After I found a basis for most, I'll then add other details here and there, but here you can see me just going along the line work and then fading out some areas of the painting as well, making sure I get those floating islands or floating platforms as well. Another tip as well, I usually will fade out those platforms with like a motion blur or like a gradient blur just to make it look like they're very far, because they look very far, but it just adds a little bit of spice. And then here you see me going in on the tree. Sounded weird. Here you see me just adding shading to the tree and just adjusting the lighting. Even though it's a black, I then adjust the color balance to make it like a blue or just another color that's much different from just black by itself because it's boring. I did add some shading in the top right corner. Here you can see me adding some light variations and just like leaks from like the top right side of the painting. Again, it works in tandem with the shading like I said, and just adding some final touches. I stole the frame that I used for the bomb on Battlefield because I can and I will do it again. Here is the original, and now here is my final. So as you can see, I added a lot more detail. It looks a lot more rich. Sky looks a bit more heavenly itself, just from what we have from the original. Really proud of the way it came out. Took a lot of reference from Skyward Sword, the background. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing and checking out some of my other content. Thank you for watching. It's been Acrometh. Peace.